Hello my friends, we are back and today we are going to be discussing the City of Ember. So we just finished this book. I know I say that about all of the books that we read together, and this is why I pick them, but this is one of my favorite books ever from when I was a kid. And yeah, that's why I chose to read it on this channel. So this book was originally published back in 2003, so I was in first or second grade, so I didn't read it until I was a little bit older than that, but it like completely blew my mind. I'm pretty sure that was like the first book I'd ever read that had like a big plot twist. I'd read books that had smaller plot twists, like things that were surprising, but this is the first book I read that the ending just came out of nowhere and completely shocked me. And that just totally blew my mind. And ever since then, like to this day, I look for books that have amazing twist endings that surprise and amaze me. But then when you go back and you think about it, you're like, oh, no. When I reread this, I realized it didn't really come out of nowhere. Like, there were hints about it, but since I wasn't expecting it, it was a big surprise. But since I've reread it a bunch of times, now I'm able to see the hints and the signs. So that's why I like to reread books. You kind of get a new understanding of it every time you read. So that's fun. Also, like, this makes me think of when I was a kid and when I first read it, so it brings back happy memories too. So, like I said, one of my favorite books ever. So I have a couple of questions for you guys, like we always do in these Let's Discuss videos. So once again, I'm going to put my email right here, readwithmisschaumont@gmail.com, and I would love, love, love for you to send me an email with your answers to one of these questions, all of these questions, none of the questions, and just your thoughts on this book. But yeah, I just send me an email. I will respond, I promise, because I love to talk about books with you guys, and I miss being in the classroom together where we can have our real book club. So this is as best we can do for right now. So we're gonna go ahead and get started. I've got my questions. I always write them out because you guys know me, I ramble all the time. I'm doing it right now, right? Like I just talk and talk and talk. And if I don't have notes, like in class, my lesson plans on my clipboard, right? If I don't have them, I get off track and I get distracted, and then we're like hopping around on the floor like frogs. Like you never know what's gonna happen. So that was a long way to say I've got my questions right here, so I'm gonna look down at them. My first question for you guys is, what did you think about the ending? Like, did you expect it? Are you like, Miss Chaumont, what are you talking about? That was not a twist ending. Like, I'm not surprised about it at all. I knew they were underground the whole time. Or did it blow your mind too? Were you totally shocked? Did you understand when they were coming up and they were talking about the glowing silver circle in the sky? Like, did you know that they meant the moon? When they talked about the big plants that they could lean up against, did you know they were talking about trees? Or did it take a while for you to figure it out? I would just love to know your thoughts on the ending and if it was surprising to you or not. Question number 2. So this book has 2 main characters. Lots of books have one main character and then some like other important characters. Like when we read Found, Jonah was the main character, but Chip and Catherine were important characters too. So they were side characters, but they were important. Just like in A Wrinkle in Time, Meg was the main character, but Charles Wallace was really important too. And so was Calvin. But in the City of Ember, we really have 2 equally important main characters. And I think it's cool because it's a boy and a girl. Because sometimes, I don't know why, but sometimes people are like, girls are like, I don't like to read books about boy main characters. And boys are like, I don't like to read books about girl main characters, right? Like, I personally think that's silly, and I read lots of books about boys and girls and men and women and everything. But this book has a boy and a girl, so no matter who you like to read about, we got them here. But Lina and Doon they're pretty different, right? Like, Lina loves to be up and about and running and having fun and drawing pictures and using her imagination. And Doon is a lot more serious. Like, he wanted to work in the pipeworks, even though it's not a good job, so that he could try to help save the city, right? They're very different people, but they're also alike in a lot of ways. So I want to know how you think they're alike and how you think they're different. I gave you a couple of the ways that they're different, but I want to know your thoughts. And also, is there one of them that you relate to more? Like when I was reading, were you thinking, oh my gosh, Lina is just like me? Or I don't know why Lina is doing that. I'm totally with Doon here. Like, he's making the right decisions, right? So I would love to know, is there one that you related to more? And what did you think about having 2 main characters? I think it's cool. All right, my third question for you guys is about when Lina finds out that Lizzie is getting stolen special things from the storerooms because her boyfriend is Looper. So first of all, what did you think about that? But Second of all, Lina decides, she took the cans that Lizzie gave her at first before she talked to her about it. But after that, when she found out that Lizzie and Looper were stealing, Lina decides she doesn't want to take part in that at all. Why do you think she makes that decision, right? She could have all these amazing things, and she even thinks about it, right? Taking care of her family, making sure Poppy has good things to live with, but why does she decide not to? And do you think she made the right decision? And is it the decision you would have made? I think that would be a really hard choice, right? Like, if you think that it's probably the wrong thing to do, but you get to eat special treats that like nobody else has, and you make sure that your sister is cared for even when people are struggling. How do you choose? And do you think Lina made the right choice? All right, question number 4. This is kind of a big question. So, Ember was built to save the human race from, they thought a disaster was coming. They don't really tell you what exactly the disaster is. You kind of have to use your imagination. You kind of find out a little bit about it in the sequels, but they're trying to save the human race from being totally wiped out by some possible disaster. But the woman who was writing the journal that Lina and Doon are reading in the last chapter, she was saying that she thinks the scientists and the engineers who built Ember should have used their talents to help solve the problems instead of putting people underground and to try to save the human race. She thinks that they should have been working on other problems and using their skills that way. So I want to know what you think. Do you think that building Ember was the right decision? That's like totally up to you. There's no right or wrong answer to that one. Yeah, so, and why? Why do you think it's the right decision, or why would you think it's the wrong decision? I'm not sure what I think about that question. All right, and my last question for you, number 5, I want you to make a prediction. This book is the first book in a series, like many books are, right? I love to read first books in series to you guys, and then you get excited about them, and then you can read the rest of the series if you want to. That's fun to me. But, and when I was your age, I used to love starting new series and finding new books and then reading all the books or all the books by one author. But anyways, Ember is the first book in a series. In the sequel, it's called The People of Sparks. That's the next book, book number 2. Right? So at the end of this book, Lina and Doon drop that message down and Mrs. Murdo finds it. What is your prediction? What do you think is going to happen in the sequel? Do you think Mrs. Murdo is going to understand the message? Do you think they're going to successfully get out of Ember? If the people do get out of Ember, what do you think they're going to do when they come up into the world? Do you think that there are any people left in the world? What do you think those people would be like if there are people, right? So all kinds of stuff to think about, but I would love to know your prediction. What do you think is going to happen in the sequel? So there's little pictures on the back of the book. I like when books do this because then they like let you know, but The City of Ember is the first one. The second book is called The People of Sparks. The third book is actually a prequel. So it was written and published third, but it is the setting, right? This is why we talk about setting. It's important, right? You're like, Mishima, who cares about the setting, right? But this is why. The setting of the third book is actually before the City of Ember. It's kind of set in like 200 something years before Ember, like before they actually built the city. And it's called The Prophet of Yonwood. And then the fourth book is called The Diamond of Darkhold. And I cannot remember this one at all. I remember that I liked this one, and I remember I really liked this one. I actually just bought myself a new copy of this one on my Kindle so that I can reread this. I think I'm going to skip The People of Sparks because I've already read it. And this one you don't need to have read. You can kind of read them out of order because this one's a prequel. So I'm a big fan of prequels. I like to know the backstory of what happened and why it's like this, right? So I'm going to reread that one next now that we've finished this one together. But yeah, I would love to know your thoughts about what's going to happen in the sequel. And just like all of the books that I read you guys, these are available at the public library. I hope that you have a public library card, and I hope that you visit the public library. It's amazing. Books are free for you to borrow. Like, what an incredible resource. There's lots of countries where people aren't able to do that, but I think it's really amazing, and especially in our county, our library system is really good. So please make sure you're taking advantage of the public library and check out the rest of the books in this series if you want to read more. But yeah, please send me an email. I would love to talk about this book with you guys, probably even more than any of the other books we've read so far. This one might be my favorite one. But yeah, send me an email, send me your thoughts, let me know. And I will see you guys tomorrow with our next book that we're starting. All right, and it's a historical fiction, so get ready for that. All right, bye guys.